November 21, 1970. The International Arena in Memphis was packed with 12,500 roaring fans when Elvis Presley, mid-song, paused. A single soldier stood in the crowd, holding a trembling hand. What happened next wasn't in the script, and it changed everyone in that arena forever. The arena was electric, a living pulse of anticipation and fervor. 12,500 voices ricocheted off the walls, creating a wall of sound that could be felt in the chest as much as it could be heard. Spotlights cut through the smoky haze, casting long, shimmering beams across the polished stage floor. November 21st, 1970. And the air smelled of popcorn, sweat, and anticipation. The mingling sense of a crowd gathered for something legendary. Elvis Presley appeared, his white jumpsuit gleaming under the Las Vegas-style lights. Guitar slung low, boots tapping softly as he strode to the center. The first chords rang out, reverberating like a call to arms for every fan in attendance. Behind him, Scotty Moore's guitar hummed in harmony, and Joe Esposito, the road manager, kept a careful watch on every cue, amidst the chaotic sea of faces. A young soldier, Private Tommy Langford, 22, stood frozen, fidgeting with a small, metal object in his pocket. A medal, lost months earlier during a military ceremony, now clutched tightly in trembling fingers. He glanced around nervously, certain no one, not even Elvis, could possibly notice him in the throng. The crowd's energy seemed to swell around him, the noise pressing in from every side. Yet a strange sense of intimacy took hold, as if fate had singled him out. Fans craned for a glimpse of their idol, some screaming, some whistling, a few waving scarves and handwritten notes. The band nodded to each other, sensing the electricity that only an audience this massive could generate. Somewhere in the mix of cheers and stomping feet, the camera, a handheld bootleg from the mezzanine, caught Tommy's eyes. Wide and uncertain, punctuated the moment. Have you ever felt invisible in a sea of people, longing for recognition? And what would you do if a hero noticed you in a moment you least expected? Elvis hit a high note, then paused mid-strum, scanning the crowd in a slow, deliberate arc. The roar dulled as the audience subconsciously sensed a shift. Tommy's breath caught, heart pounding like the drum in the background. And then, impossibly, Elvis pointed, directly at him. The arena, still thrumming with energy, seemed to collectively hold its breath, as if waiting for something extraordinary to happen. Elvis stopped, guitar in mid-strum, eyes scanning the crowd, and suddenly, he pointed. The arena went dead silent. 12,500 people, in unison, seemed to inhale and hold their breath, as if the walls themselves were listening. The roar of the crowd faded into an expectant hum, broken only by the soft click of a distant camera and the faint squeak of a stage monitor. Security shifted uneasily, unsure if this pause was scripted theatrics or an unfolding anomaly that no protocol could prepare them for. Elvis walked down the stage stairs with measured steps, the spotlight following every movement. Microphone in hand, his presence alone demanded attention. The audience's anticipation was palpable, a living, breathing force that wrapped around Tommy Langford and held him suspended between disbelief and awe. He froze where he stood, unsure if this was reality or a dream conjured by adrenaline and hope. Fans whispered to one another, some craning forward, trying to see through the blur of lights. The band held the last chord in suspense, fingers poised on strings, creating a suspended note that seemed to stretch across every corner of the arena. The PA system hummed faintly, a thin undercurrent to the collective heartbeat of the crowd. In that tension, time itself appeared to stretch, the minutes elongated by the weight of what might happen next, surfaced in the charged atmosphere. When has a single pause changed everything in your life? Could you have the courage to act under such pressure, in front of thousands of eyes, all waiting to witness your moment? And then it happened. Elvis stopped just a few feet from Tommy, the medal trembling in the young soldier's hand. A hush swept through the arena as if the air itself had thickened. The singer leaned slightly forward, microphone angled toward the young man, and whispered, "Is this yours?" Every eye in the arena followed the exchange, capturing the unexpected intimacy amidst the mass of 12,500. Cameras clicked. Fans gasped, and somewhere near the upper balcony, a child pressed a hand to their mouth, sensing that they were witnessing more than music. Security exhaled collectively, letting their tension dissolve into astonishment. The scene was charged with human connection, with recognition, with a rare, delicate empathy that transcended fame. The moment seemed impossibly large, yet painfully personal, a reminder that acts of compassion often arrive in the midst of ordinary chaos. Every fan, every soldier, every civilian in that arena felt the ripple, a silent acknowledgement that something remarkable was unfolding before them. Elvis's words hung in the air, "Is this yours?" And the crowd waited, breathless, for Tommy's answer. Chaos threatened to erupt in the arena, but it never fully came. Security officers edged closer, muscles taut, unsure if intervention was necessary or if this was part of the show. Fans craned over shoulders, cameras clicking in rapid succession, each shutter capturing the tension like lightning frozen mid-strike. Tommy Langford's fingers shook as he extended the medal toward Elvis, the metal glinting under the stage lights, catching reflections that danced across the hushed crowd. Every eye in the room, from the front row to the balcony, fixed on this small, extraordinary exchange. The audience, initially rowdy and boisterous, had transformed into a living organism, collective hearts pounding in quiet suspense. Whispers rippled through the rows like wind through leaves, each fan questioning, each soldier next to Tommy holding his breath. Civilians pressed forward on tiptoes, craning necks, desperate to witness a moment that none of them could have rehearsed. Somewhere in the wings, Joe Esposito exchanged a glance with Scotty Moore, the guitar's neck trembling under his hand as he held a note. Prolonging the suspense like a suspended chord in a song, a reporter near the mezzanine scribbled furiously, capturing the scene with a notebook and a flickering flashlight, proof for the next day's column, but also evidence that something deeply human was unfolding. The tension seemed almost unbearable, yet there was beauty in it, a pause that asked the question, what would any of us do if recognized when least expected? The reflective whispers circulated. How does witnessing someone's small act of compassion make you reflect on your own choices? And would you risk vulnerability in front of 12,500 strangers? Then, in a moment that seemed to slow time, Elvis took the medal into his hand. The metal felt weighty, not just in mass, but in meaning. Every dent, every scratch, every story it carried. He examined it under the harsh arena lights, turning it slowly in his fingers as the crowd leaned forward as one, silent yet screaming in anticipation. The stage seemed suspended between heartbeat and eternity, each second stretching like taffy dot. And then, without fanfare, without warning, Elvis did something entirely unexpected. He bent slightly, held the medal gently, and kissed it. The single act of recognition rippled through the arena. Gasps, stifled cheers, and soft whispers spread like wildfire. Security officers relaxed, realizing that this was not a threat but a gesture of honor. Fans pressed closer to each other, sharing wide-eyed glances, some with tears gathering in the corners of their eyes. In front of 12,500 people, an intimate moment of compassion had been made public, transforming the atmosphere from tension to awe. Elvis, medal in hand, prepared to return it, a gesture no one in the arena would ever forget. In a burst of short, deliberate movements, Elvis bent closer to Tommy Langford. The medal, polished and worn, caught the arena lights in a dazzling glint. He pinned it back onto the young soldier's chest with a tenderness that seemed impossible under the harsh stage lamps. The arena erupted, first in stunned silence. A collective intake of breath so deep it seemed to vibrate the rafters. Then, in a wave of cheer that shook walls, floors, and every heart present, Tommy's voice cracked as he whispered, "Thank you, sir." Elvis's nod was slight but full of gravity, accompanied by a quiet murmur, "For all you do." The strings swelled, a soft, cinematic accompaniment to the moment, while microphones captured every note, every heartbeat, every subtle rustle of fabric and shuffle of feet. Fans leaped to their feet, some clapping, others crying openly, the mixture of emotions creating a soundscape both chaotic and reverent. Security relaxed, smiling in relief and wonder, realizing that this small act of recognition had diffused tension into joy. The stage itself seemed transformed. More than wood and lights, it had become a theater of humanity. Scotty Moore's guitar hummed gently, the final chords of the setlist echoing, a soundtrack to something far larger than music. Joe Esposito watched from the side, a rare smile touching his lips, knowing this moment would be etched forever into fan memory, into legend. The crowd, once a sea of energy and expectation, now moved as a single organism, united in awe and gratitude. Short bursts of thought punctuated the audience. Reflection, astonishment, empathy. Everyone understood what had begun as a concert was now a shared, profound human experience. The energy shifted again, the arena alive with hope, pride, and recognition. Fans clasped hands, soldiers straightened their postures, civilians wiped tears, and the memory of the gesture engraved itself into the collective consciousness of all 12,500 witnesses. Then, from the back of the arena, a single voice rose, encore. But the moment about to follow would transcend music entirely. After the performance, the arena did not empty as it normally would. Fans lingered, forming an impromptu line, a slow-moving river of faces extending toward Tommy Langford. Each person wanted to glimpse him, to share in the rare intimacy they had witnessed. Reporters scribbled notes furiously, snapping photographs that would appear in the morning papers, capturing handshakes, smiles, and even tears. Every frame reflected a moment that transcended a single performance. The band members gathered near the stage, their instruments still in hand, exchanging looks of quiet reverence. "Legendary," muttered Scotty Moore, his voice barely audible over the murmurs. Joe Esposito nodded, aware that this was unlike any gig they had ever attended. The atmosphere was transformed. What began as an ordinary concert had become a stage for human recognition, a testament to the power of compassion lived in public, nearby. A fan club representative approached Tommy, presenting a plaque to commemorate the moment. November 21st, 1970, where compassion played encore. The soldier accepted it, holding it close, while Elvis sent a signed photograph with the inscription for bravery. On and off stage, the gestures, small and concrete, symbolized the ripple effect of one act of honor, magnified in front of thousands. How can one small gesture unite a fragmented crowd or even an entire community? Fans who had once been strangers now shared knowing glances, whispered their astonishment, and celebrated a story that would become part of their collective memory. The medal, the applause, and the signatures became tokens of a moment bigger than the arena itself. A ripple that extended beyond walls, beyond time. The crowd's energy, once chaotic and restless, had transformed into a steady current of shared humanity, a wave of connection that no one present would forget. The medal, the applause, the signatures all would echo far beyond the arena's walls, creating a legacy no one expected. Weeks after the concert, newspapers printed the story. Elvis honors soldier mid-performance, arena cheers, historic moment. The headline carried more than fame. It captured an echo of humanity that had transcended music. Private Tommy Langford framed the medal alongside Elvis's note, placing it in a prominent spot in the barracks. Each glance at the frame reminded him that recognition and gratitude could arrive in the most unexpected ways. Even on a crowded stage, local schools recounted the story as a lesson in empathy and integrity. Teachers used it to illustrate the profound impact of noticing others, honoring bravery, and returning what was lost. Fan clubs recirculated bootleg recordings of the moment, the faint hiss of tape amplifying the legend rather than diminishing it. Even decades later, the story persisted, shared among new generations as a symbol of kindness lived publicly. The arena staff, recognizing the moment's historic weight, installed a commemorative plaque above the stage. November 21st, 1970, where compassion played encore. Visitors still reference it, tracing their fingers along the brass letters, imagining the hush, the cheer, and the collective heartbeat of 12,500 witnesses. Scotty Moore and Joe Esposito would later recount the night as the most human, most legendary we've ever experienced on stage, a reflection not just on Elvis, but on the transformative power of empathy. The story's ripples reached beyond Memphis. Soldiers shared it during reunions, civilians told it in living rooms, and journalists cited it as an example of public compassion. The arena itself became a shrine not to music alone, but to the unexpected ways a single gesture can shift the collective consciousness. The medal, once lost, became a symbol, a reminder that acknowledgement and honor have the power to outlive the immediate moment. And decades later, fans still tell the story, asking each other quietly, what would you do in that moment? In a world often too loud, one small gesture changed 12,500 hearts. A medal, once lost, returned by a legendary musician, became more than metal and ribbon. It became a symbol of recognition, of seeing and honoring others when they least expect it. The arena, a space usually devoted to spectacle and entertainment, had transformed into a theater of human empathy, a stage where compassion resonated louder than the amplifiers ever could. Fans, soldiers, and civilians alike carried the lesson home. The story reminded them that the simplest acts, noticing, honoring, returning what is lost, ripple far beyond a single moment. Each cheer, each tear, each smile in that arena reinforced that compassion is contagious. capable of transforming a crowd into a community. And as decades passed, the story endured, retold in classrooms, barracks, and living rooms, a parable that demonstrated that greatness is measured not only in talent, but in humanity. How often do we overlook the small acts of courage and kindness in our daily lives? What would happen if we, too, returned what was lost, acknowledged what is unseen, or honored what others hold dear? The answer is in the echoes of that November night, when 12,500 witnesses realized that empathy, recognition, and compassion are legendary in their own right. The moment was fleeting, yet timeless. It reminded the world that even amidst fame, lights, and music, one person's attention to another can create waves far larger than the stage itself. In remembering Elvis and Tommy Langford, we remember that the true performance is the humanity we show, and that even in the loudest arenas, the quietest gestures can leave the longest lasting imprint, and in every retelling, the question lingers in the spotlight of your own life. Will you notice, honor, and return what is lost? Moments like these remind us that recognition and compassion are timeless. Share this story with someone who could use a reminder that noticing the small acts of courage and kindness can echo far beyond a single stage, and perhaps inspire your own legendary moment.